much, Suzette. And I just want to say welcome to all the participants who are here this afternoon. Um, I also want to say thank you to the SVG Auto Association for inviting me to host this very important discussion. I think that a discussion such as this is very timely and a talented pool of human resources that we have here today. I think that this conversation, this discussion would be fruitful and quite beneficial to the participants who are involved in this, as I say, very important discussion. It's really not often that you get a chance to really articulate your views and perspectives in such a forum. Okay, so I just want to also say kudos again to you, Suzette, and your team for putting together such a discussion. Um, my name is Gary Peters, and it's really a fantastic opportunity for me to really host, as I say, such a talented pool of persons, participants, to really have such a timely discussion. Vincy Mass is something that is very important to us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and by extension, the diaspora. So we want to gather some perspectives, we want to gather some views, because as the topic suggests, there seems to be what we may call a transitioning of Vincy Mass. We'll find out today if it has happened before, if it's something that, it's the norm. I mean, it's been several years now since we've had Vincy Mass activity. There's been changes in all forms. Music has changed, Mass has changed, Pan, the different roles. So we have some experts here today with us, and we're going to have a fantastic dialogue. So what I've done basically is to, for efficacy, we'll try to place some of the talents that we have into categories, but it by no means mean that you are just restricted to offer your perspectives and opinion. But as I said, for efficacy, I've divided the discussion into four main areas where we'd have Mass and Pan, and we have some resource persons that would contribute directly to that: Calypso, Raga, and Power Soca. And interestingly, I've added a section here called the CDC shows and private events. So those are the four broad areas which we'll try to focus on and extract from that, the meat of the discussion, if you want to call it that. And I'm just going to follow basically what I have here. And the first category that we have is Mass and Pan. And I'm here marking these persons: Rodney Small, Marvin Thomas, Karen Vera, and Dr. Kevin Brown. Once these persons are here, the dialogue basically will focus initially around your presentation. And what I'm hoping to do is, of course, you had a beautiful introduction there by Suzette, but if there's anything that you need to add, you can have a minute or two to just put all of that into perspective. And then the idea is that you present in some way a brief dialogue on what Vincy Mass means to you in the particular area. And then after that, we'll probably proceed into a more broader discussion on the topic that is there and summarize. And that would be the format for the other three categories as well, where I would mark the persons initially. And of course, as I said, it's not meant to restrict anyone, but if there's, valuable contribution to be made in that particular area by any of the other panelists who we have earmarked for this program, certainly you can make your contribution. So with such a glowing bio, we're going to call on Rodney Small to introduce himself again, and basically give us an overview of what he sees as Vincy Mass and its importance to him and in the particular areas that he functions in. So over to you, Rodney.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whichever part of the world we are right now. I hope everybody's hearing me. As you said earlier, my name is Rodney Small. In this capacity, I'm the president of the Yolo Pan Movement, who's the governing body for steel pan in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For me, Vincy Mask means a whole lot of things, as I am most time involved in almost every little thing that says Vincy Mask. But for me, Vincy Mask is really a unifying spirit that brings us together, that creates some level of identity that allows us to express ourselves, where we can respect our own individuality as
You didn't
Vincentians.
go with me.
Hello? You hear me right, Gary?
Yes, Rodney.
Right,
Yes.
right. I was saying that Vincy Mask, for me, it's a unifying spirit that brings us together. And I mean, that allow us to express ourselves freely as Vincentian and give us the opportunity to really push that Vincentian product and that uniqueness out there to the world. Most importantly, it's something that we can build a more unifying society, where we can appreciate each other for what we do or who we are. Vincy Mars is full inclusion, because I heard you mention private shows and CBC shows and all of the other components. So I see it as full inclusion for all of us as Vincentians. So for me, most importantly, and because we're doing this and we have such a big panel, it's all about the unifying spirit of togetherness.
Thank you very much, Rodney. And we move on. Movin Thomas. Can we have your perspective as well? A brief intro. All right. Oh, welcome, Movin. I think we're hearing you. Check your mic. All right. Well, Movin, maybe we can get back to you when you sort that out. And I think Karen would have to forgive me. Generally, we would say that ladies first. um, what we'll do, we'll take Karen while Movin sort out. Is this, you will come back to you in a bit, Movin. So please, Karen, can you give us a little overview?
Good night, everybody. Um, for me, Vincy Mas means more than I could put into words. For me, the greatest day of Vincy Mas is and will always be Carnival Tuesday. As a child, I remember, like I always wanted to play a more integral role in Carnival, in Tuesday. Like, how can I be a part of that? When I was in UE, I was a part of the International Affairs Committee, and we were responsible for doing events there. And that is where I kind of got into the entertainment business and wanting to see people have a good time. I did that. I came back to St. Vincent in 2010. In 2011, we did Uncle Skinny, we did Black Rave, we did Climax, and then the rest is history. It just kept building from there. In 2017, I embarked on the Oxygen Mass journey, and it has undoubtedly been a success. And so for me, it is, how do I take Vincy Mass and Carnival Tuesday and take that to the world? And every year, that is my aim. How do we make it bigger? How do we get more people to come into our island to see this pure, authentic, amazing day where there's a parade on the road, where people are having the most fantastic time? That is my aim. And that's what Vincy Mass is to me.
All right, thank you very much, Karen. Movin, are you ready?
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
You hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you clearly. Now.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Marvin Thomas, as was said before. Presently working with Blondie Board and Present Mass Band. Been with Mass Band for some 15, 16 years now. What Carnival means to me this year, and Carnival means to me is like, as Roddy said, it means a lot to me. It means the world. Since I've been at the age 10 to 12, I've been involved in culture in St. Vincent in terms of building, playing pan. And I've seen that this year Carnival has been a very what I must say, very learning and experience and very well-rounded carnival for me this year. In that I've done something that I've never done yet in carnival. I've done some production for Calypsonians. I did some production for Pansize and my own mass band and other mass band. And carnival is like another part of my life. There's only 2 times a year I celebrate. It's carnival and Christmas. One because of Christmas is because of not the drinking and the eating, the lighting, spectacular part of the lighting in St. Vincent. The carnival hold the biggest part of my heart. And I will continue to be in mass and to give as much as I can to my country in culture, as long as God give me health and strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marvin. And I saw the passion coming through. It's really exciting, to see that kind of passion being expressed. And I think this is why, we have in the participation in this event today. The final person in this category for now to give an introduction is Dr. Kevin Brown. Dr. Brown, you're here?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right, welcome.
Yes, good to be here, and thanks for having me. But I'm seeing everyone talking about what carnival means to them. For me, I basically describe it as my happy place. I think it has nurtured us from when we were growing up as children, and I think our society itself has taught us indirectly about the culture of carnival. It's something that we grew up loving. So for me, growing up with parents who judge carnival, whether it's mass band, all aspects, I remember there as a child sitting down by the judges panel watching all the mass bands going across, all the music that was played. And so for me, carnival is more of a nostalgic experience because we grew up in it. And during that time, it's some of our best memories. And I think based on those memories is why we gravitate to it and we always have an affinity for carnival, especially now. But my journey has taken me from pan and growing up and feeling the goosebumps when you hear the pan play live, not listening to it basically on a television or radio, but being there live and feeling that music, feeling that bass. I think that resonated with me, especially experiencing it in other countries. I went to Trinidad, I went to Jamaica. And I think in my journey, especially with pan, it has taught me the different aspects of music, how to use it, and that led me to arranging. And then from arranging now, it broadened my horizons. I got to work with a lot of people, a lot of artists, a lot of entertainers, and I even did things for myself, being a participant. And I think that's what has led me to participate and always contribute to Vincy Mass, even though it may be late, especially with my hectic schedule. But then later on now, I guess this one, is by default. You surround yourself with those who have a similar thought process or similar goals. And I think that is what has led me to interact with a lot of my friends and colleagues who are more or less in the same, the same sphere of carnival. So with those colleagues, being around the different shows, artists, the whole concept of carnival is what basically led me to throw in my promoter hat this year, as I mentioned. And as a result, I think it shows you another side of carnival. One, it helps you to try and marry what has been done in the past and what they do now. I think also it shows you the business of carnival. And then the part that I have always been attached to would have been the music, the creation. Nothing, for me, everything is about what is created for carnival. I always look forward to hearing the new tunes, seeing what the masses this year, what Blondie and the other bands have come up with, Dragons, you name it. And well, I have to do a plug for Oxygen Mass. But at the end of the day, I think the whole aspect of carnival is innate. And I also want to mention that I've realized in St. Vincent, and we don't look at how valuable it is for us. The average person somewhat has stuck in carnival. I remember going in my first day when I started working here. I heard nurses and so just talking about the songs that they were hearing for carnival. And they were very adamant about whose song and which song they like and that kind of thing. So whether we know it or not, we indirectly feel some sort of passion towards our own culture. But I'll not try and, I don't want to draw it out any longer with regards to that. So thank you. That's my piece about my love. And I think I refer to carnival as my happy place.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown. I think we are off to an excellent start. And the first category, but what we'll do, well, I'll give you something to think about because we're going to take a little break, run some ads, and we'll have the panelists in this particular category start thinking about the particular area. So it's pan and mass, and I know what we are seeing is persons who have a kind of dual affair, but you're going to focus on your specific area. In the case of Rodney, I understand he's all, in different areas, but I know he's a pan man as well. But, focus on your particular area. And the question would be, how do you see the role of your particular area in reference to whether it's pan or mass? In Vincy Mass, its relevance, okay? Going forward, any opportunities and challenges. So 3 things you're going to focus on before we return. You're going to look at your particular area and you're going to say, basically, what is the relevance? You're going to give a perspective on the relevance of your particular area. The purpose it serves, if you want to put it that way, opportunities and challenges that you may see. All right, so we'll take a little break to run some ads and we'll be back with this discussion.
The SVG Association of Ottawa, in collaboration with Team Behel News Network, the Ultimate 5 Band, invite you to a Community Pulse Forum. Topic, the transitioning of Vincy Mars, a dialogue on the challenges, opportunities, way forward, plus a question and answer period. Sunday, 27th August, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a very talented panel. Host Gary Peters of the Ultimate 5 Band. Live streaming on Behel News Network, Kankadi Radio, Success Radio, Fun City Radio, YouTube Behel News Network. Join the panel via Zoom at svgottawaassociation@gmail.com. If it's this Sunday, August 27th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's have a community chat on Vincy Mars.
Hi, we're the Ultimate 5 Jazz Band, and we're an easy listening conservative musical provider. We cater for cocktails, receptions, birthday parties, or any private event that you may wish to acquire musical services. Please contact us, the Ultimate 5 Jazz Band.
Behel News Network is an internet radio. We are affiliate with Fun City Radio USA, Kankadi Radio and Success Radio Canada and Blaze Nation Media Group. You can find Behel News Network at www.behelnews.net.
Come and join the Dynamite's Calypso tent as they present their Labor Day Backyard Jam on Friday, September 1st.
We drinking?
It's all happening at 42 Malta Street, Brooklyn, between New Locks and Hegman. The jamming starts at 9 p.m. with The Man Age, Dennis Bowman, Jose Juan, Delahante Isles, Oscar James, Persano, Jakey, Bob MC, Hamlet, and Rejector, with special guest appearances by Lively, The Scorcher, and from Grenada, Hercules. Come and enjoy local Vincy foods and a well-stocked bar. Admission to this is absolutely free. So come join the Dynamite's Calypso tent as they present their Labor Day Backyard Jam on Friday, September 1st.
It's my sweet playing. We drinking?
Please protect me when I step out to party. I'm begging you, please. Please guide the family from wicked and envy, because they're going to sweat me and laugh with all they going smile. Me and them going struggle, they will still go and plan my demise. Want to be a man to fight me down just because I start rise. So when you see me in a party, watch me in the eyes. And this is for you, for you, for you. Take dirty bad my you, for you, for you. Take dirty and for you, for you, for you.
She love the road, the road, the road. She say everything, everything, everything must be big, so big. Big speaker, big truck, big wheeler. Oh, big road, big road, big road.
All right. Welcome back. Okay. So just before the break, the question was for the participants in this particular category, how do you see the role of your particular area in Vincy Mass, its relevance, purpose, and any challenges that you think that your particular area and its contribution to Vincy Mass has. And this time I think I'm gonna get it right. So we're going to start with Karen. Karen?
Yes. You're going with ladies first this time for sure, boy.
Definitely.
Okay,
It's a privilege.
the relevance, like I was saying, in my little introduction, Carnival Tuesday is the climax of Vincy Mass. This is the day when ordinarily our artisans would have gotten the chance to showcase their talents. And it has always been fascinating, to listen to our costume being called sunflower. And then when that costume is coming down the road, it looks exactly like a sunflower. You could see the artistry in it. That is what is unique about Vincy Mass, the way the costumes are built. For me, our band is a little different. We are a party band. So when we're registering for Vincy Mass, there's traditional bands and then there's party bands. We fall into the party band category. For me, the opportunities would be the continuous growth of Carnival Tuesday and of Vincy Mass altogether. It is for us to find ways to continuously grow and to get people, like I said, into our islands. And this is what all the islands are doing right now. Everybody is trying to get more people to come in to witness their festivals. And so then that is our threat. Our threat then would be the other islands, the neighboring islands, Grenada, St. Lucia, those who have closer carnivals to ours. So it's for us to find our authenticity and determine how we're going to transfer this information to the rest of the world so that they could come in and be a part of it. For me, the opportunities come from networking and from, talking to similar bands across the region so that we could feed ideas off of them. And what we should try not to do is to make Carnival too commercialized. That means we don't allow the bigger islands to come in and have the same fetes that they have in Trinidad and Barbados and Jamaica, because that's what's happening with the bigger islands. The bigger islands are becoming so commercialized that it is the exact same festival, just in a different location. And that is what Vincy Mass has over a lot of these festivals. We don't have that. We have a pure, authentic product. And that is what we need to figure out how to transfer that over to everyone else. I think that's pretty much what I have on my notes.
All right, so I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I'm also going to bring in representative from what we may consider the traditional mass, if you want to call it that. They would have a narrative that suggests that maybe a band like Oxygen and, along that kind of line has a more, how to put it, sophisticated type, as you say, catering for a different type of audience. So the representative here, is it Marvin?
Yes, it is.
Great. So can we have your perspective? I think that you're coming from a traditional mass background where,
Yes, I'm coming from a traditional mass background. Um, you see, the purpose is to show off, as currency, our talent. or God-given talent that we have. You know, what I love about it is that, I'm kind of a Tuesday, I sit down. I don't play mass. I haven't played mass in how much years? I build costume, but I don't play. I love to sit down and look at the costumes, go down the road, section by section, stand and look at it and see the beauty of my handmade in doing traditional mass. I'm not saying that the party bands are not good. They're very good at the quality, the texture, the feathers. It give me a hurrah feelings. Now the opportunity is we could gain from it is to, as a young person growing up, we could get the opportunity to build costumes in other countries and to go and experience carnival in other countries, learn a bit from it. And we need like in schools during summer, we need in schools that somebody could have a program where you teach young people how to build costumes, whether it's traditional costumes or party costumes. You need that to get something like that into the schools, so that the young people get involved. So when I probably next 3 years decide I'm going to finish with it, somebody I could say, well, I teach this person in school, so this person will pick up from where I am. Now the challenges that we have, in, although I'm not so sure if the party bands have it, is mainly sponsorship. We have sponsorship, and we have challenges, especially with our mass band. And we have seen it for 3 mass bands this year. 10th space. 3 mass bands had to share one small area for 10th space, which was very tight. And we have high price of materials. You could imagine that you buying a pound of feathers, which let's say 200 US. That's approximately 500 EC. And that a pound of feathers cannot do one costume. And you're gonna sell a costume for, let's say, $200, $300. You understand? So that's my take on it so far.
All right. So it's a very interesting when we juxtaposition both aspects of the mass. You would have, let's say, persons willing to pay upwards of $1,000 for costume, and in some
Exactly.
other situation, you may have costumes that are at a lower price, but seemingly out of pocket for some persons. It's a kind of interesting thing. I mean, I've seen it. And of course, if there's anyone else who can add or shed light to this, not necessarily that I'm putting Morvin and Karen against one another, but we are just reflecting what we've been seeing in terms of, the unfolding of events in terms of Vincy Mass. I don't know if you want to say anything in regards to this. Is it a problem of marketing? Is it that the costumes are not attractive? I mean, there's many questions, and we could go on and on. But yeah, I don't know. Is it a challenge to market your costumes? I mean,
I don't think it's a challenge to market the costumes. Marketing is very easy, you know, not marketing. You see, some people, especially young people, no offense to Karen and the other party bands, want to be somewhat like what we say, Trinidad, a lot of feathers. A lot of young people do not like or don't gravitate to the traditional mask these days. They believe, oh, you have something big and heavy on your back, and you ain't get enough time, and they don't offer this and they don't offer that. That is the problem.
all right. So and what about the relations between? Well, I mean, you've indicated that there was 3 bands sharing a common space. That's what you said. Produce
Yes,
the costumes.
we had Blondie Board and Friends,
Yeah.
Imagination Mass Band, and we had another band, Child Mass Band, sharing one space for Carnival 2023. which was
Well,
very small. Some people might not know the old Juicy building. That place was occupied by three mass bands and a brass band, a musical brass band. So we have
right.
4 persons using that small space.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that is coming out there is that there's the indication that persons can work together. From your perspective, Karen, is there an opportunity for, let's say, a collaborative in any kind of way between the newer version of the mass, if you want to put it that way, and the traditional perspective and on the traditional options that you have? Is there anything that maybe you're seeing from your perspective that you can, gather, you can extract from, let's say, the traditional mass, etc.?
I honestly, if I'm to be super honest with you, since Carnival ended on the 11th of July, that has been the question that I've been asking myself daily. How can I come up with a way to assist the traditional bands in getting to the level of interest that we would get from persons around the region? And it is something that I'm fighting with, because for me, I don't want the art form to die. I don't want the traditional bands to get to a point where they don't think it's worth it anymore and they throw their hands up, right? You were mentioning the marketing, if marketing is an issue, and I know Mervyn doesn't think so, but I think marketing could be something that the traditional bands could look into, where they put a little more emphasis on the way they advertise. We're still kind of fixated on the radio, the newspaper, ads, etc. But for me personally, I find those advertising to be a slightly obsolete in a way where I feel like we could be doing so much more to market the bands. I know this year particularly, the bands, some of them did their prototypes like we would do, and they had models in their prototypes throughout the registration period. But there's still a lot more that I think they could do, little tricks and gimmicks that we pull as the party bands to get people to be interested in their carnival. For instance, right, we do influencers who would come into the island to play mass with us. These influencers would then go back to their tens of thousands of followers on social media and say, hey, we played mass with Oxygen. This is what it was like. If we have one or two of these influencers playing mass with Blondie Bird or playing mass with Tribe, whoever they playing mass with, and you just tag them on that one band, it then gives the people on the outside something else to look forward to for Vincy Mass. It says to these people that, hey, Vincy Mass is not the same like Trinidad and everywhere else. They don't only have those costumes, but they have this type of costume, and the interest could probably spark from there. But the only how we could know if it works is if we try it.
Certainly, certainly. And I think that is something that we have to really keep and make note of, and going forward. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit in terms of going forward, but I like some of the ideas that's being proposed. Marvin, I think these ideas that you could probably be receptive to. I mean, you can demonstrate to the others that there's an opportunity, potential, and there's an opportunity to actually collaborate, because as is being said, the uniqueness of Vincy Mass, that traditional aspect of the mass. I remember years gone by, there probably wasn't a carnival without a military band, but obviously that person, would have passed on, who would have really pushed that kind of a mass. That was something that you look forward to every carnival. So what do you think? Is it an potential opportunity that you're seeing in formation here coming from Karen? More or less like an olive leaf in a way.
Yes, I think so. And let me say this. I think Karen must be the only party band that usually try her best to collaborate or to assist traditional mass band. Because I remember my mass band, the deputy leader, something called Karen after hours, and like, oh, Karen, we want this, we want that, we can't get it on time. And she would say, okay, then come and check me. But the other mass bands, there's party bands, they're like, oh, because it's Blondie Board, he's a one person said, how could the prime minister give a man who was just short pants and the dirty a diplomat? You know, and that's the one person who 95%, I'm not so sure, my time might be one, who see Blondie Board as a mentor. I personally see him as a mentor, even before I started working out with Blondie Board mass bands. But the collaboration is very nice. I very like to, get to Karen, like we could get together and organize in the schools, as I said, um, to teach people how to build both traditional and party band costumes. The collaboration, very nice, very well taken, encouraging. If you want to extend the invitation, I personally will try to take it up.
Well, that's the idea. That's where discussions like these become very useful because we are both, all of us are working in the same sphere. And as we work as a collective and to demonstrate that to the society that, hey, it's not, there's a competition, yes, but that competition comes out of a sense of unity. It's a collaboration sort of something, you know. And also there's another aspect to this segment, and I want to also introduce the other aspect, which is pan. But before I do that, I'd like to also extend condolences. Pat Ragge has a death in her family, and she was earmarked to be on this program today. But unfortunately, due to that circumstance, she wouldn't be present today. So we extended our sympathies to her. Now, a very important aspect of Vincy Mas, obviously, is pan. And well, in house today, we have one of the forerunners in terms of expertise on pan, and he doesn't need any mention really. So I'm going to ask Rodney to come in again and basically follow the same format in terms of how do you see the role of your particular area in terms of Vincy Mas, and we're talking about pan here now, its relevance, its purpose, and probably the opportunities and challenges that you may have. So Rodney.
All right, thanks again. For me, pan has always been a part of Vincy Mas from us the late 1940s, late 40s thereabout. Pan is an all year round thing. So I would not want to just limit it only to Vincy Mas, but I would also highlight its role in Vincy Mas. Pan is an institution, it is a community, it is family, right? I think it's one of the components that bring together everybody, the community. I think it has a long history where probably majority of us here on this panel have had some sort of interaction with the steel pan art form, with the steel pan industry. Pan has evolved tremendously. There are a number of years when pan was missing from the carnival product, from the Vincy Mas product, and it was felt to the point where the communities weren't as vibrant as they're supposed to be. As I said earlier, it is community. It highlights a lot of different qualities. It brings out a lot of emotions, a lot of expressions from within individuals who are part of it. I mean, pan goes as far as the preparation period of about 6 to 7 months for some bands, and coming together where different individuals come together to play one piece of music to be competitive in Panorama, because Panorama is the highlight. For me, Panorama is the Super Bowl of Carnival, right? I mean, some people might say soca one out, but I would say Panorama is the Super Bowl. To see all the creativity, to see everybody coming together just to play one piece of music, well rehearsed, well drilled, and to hear the final product is always something that is tremendous. Our role in Carnival, outside of the passion and the talent part of it, it generates a lot of economical opportunities and activities, because now we have seen a lot of different transition within the art form, where we're now seeing players from across the region and internationally join us here in St. Vincent. So again, pan pan is a part of the whole Caribbean integration, the whole, again, as I mentioned earlier, the unifying spirit. Pan has had its challenges, and we're still facing some of these challenges where we now have a crisis where we only have one alive tuner in St. Vincent who would normally tune the pans. And that is a crisis that we are trying to address here very swiftly. The irony that I found in this particular challenge that I'm going to talk about is that our support, the funding that we get for our steel orchestras of just for the art form going into Vincy Mass is not where it's supposed to be. But long ago in the around 1949, 1950s, we had a steel orchestra in almost every village you could think about in St. Vincent, and they all were sponsored by a business house. Now you hardly see that happening now. We have one or two bands that are sponsored. So the funding challenge is still there. Some bands are trying to see how they could make ends meet. We're seeing the support from the government by the initiative, the Pan Against Crime initiative, where it has generated a lot of players, a lot of people, a lot of newcomers to the instrument, to the art form, where we're seeing in Panorama, we have like 14 junior bands and about 8 senior bands. Now, 14 junior bands is approximately about 1,200 to 1,400 young pan players. Now, I'm speaking about the development aspect of the art form now, the continuation of it. But while we see that is happening, we are also want to make a cry, a case, a plea for us to have not just pan in school, but pan on the timetable, as much as I'm going to also put a plug for Mass and for Calypso, because I think that these components are bigger than the festival. So I don't think Mass should only be limited to Vincy Mass, June, July. I don't think Calypso should only be limited to June, July, or I don't think Pan should be limited to June, July. So I think these components can be nicely fitted in our school curriculum. Which helps to help with the preservation, the awareness, and create some sense of identity, because our students need to know who we are and what we represent. But for us now, for me personally, the steel pan instrument is doing great, especially in St. Vincent. We work hand in hand with Calypso and Soca, because if we don't have Calypso and Soca, we really don't have much to play. Only if we're playing outside music, but we're speaking specifically about Vincy Mass and Vincy music. So I think that there are a lot of great marriages there where you're now seeing a lot of steel pan. So, outside of the Super Bowl event, which is Panorama, we still see our contribution in playing on a track for a soca artist, playing on a track for a Calypso artist, or even further, we're seeing steel pan on stage and soca monarch and Calypso monarch. But we have to embrace this, right? We have to embrace it, because it's extremely important. It gives a lot of long life qualities, right? Because the kind of level of discipline that you need and that you have to carry out in a panyard during Vincy Mass, during the preparation for Panama, it's unbelievable. And I think that although we are talking about separate components, I think we all, brothers and sisters, we all need each other, right? Because remember long ago, you would see pan on the road for Carnival Monday evening and Carnival Tuesday, especially Juve morning, where, the mass men, mass builders, the Juve people would accompany that. So, I think altogether, the steel pan instrument is nicely placed in our society and in our festival. But most importantly, we have to continue to support it, because as I said earlier, it is one of the biggest sector, one of the biggest component that has the most human resources.
All right. Thank you very much, Rodney. And let me have Dr. Brown's perspective before we summarize. Dr. Brown?
Yes. Okay, so for me, with regards to the relevance of pan, I think a lot of persons, I'm one who believes in you don't know where you're going unless you know where you're coming from. It's a phrase that I usually use a lot of times. Now, in terms of the steel pan, where did pan come from? Right? Before they had the truck blaring the soca music on the streets, It started off in Mecca, Trinidad, where they had the Tambu Bamboo bands. I don't know if many persons knew that, but while I was in UE, even though I was geared to more science subjects, I focus on my English doing basically a paper on pan, which is, so that's how much I loved it, especially with my involvement. But knowing where you're coming from, the Tambu Bamboo bands, that's where it started. And then for music, it was pan. Before we had speakers on the road, before we could go around and jump behind a band, we were jumping behind a pan. Now, I think the issue with pan that I think Rodney was also alluding to was the fact that the capital involved in setting up a band. And it's not only capital, it's the time that you have to spend practicing, the hours. That's why he mentioned the community spirit, because it's one of the more family-oriented aspects of Carnival, where you will see a whole community behind the band, whether it be Starlift, Sign Hill, Elite, and all the others. But it's basically a group of persons who are not only their own mothers, their fathers, children, everybody is involved, but friends as well. And that's how they get others to join. Because at some point, I know everybody used to say something to the effect that I used to play pan back in the day. Anytime you see a pan side, that's a common phrase. I used to beat a pan, but how do we get them to continue to beat the pan? And I think this also plays into mass. How do we make what we used to like, what was cool then, how do we make it cool now? And that's one of the most important things. How do we make it palatable to our youth? And I think Rodney has done, or has led from the front with regards to trying to rejuvenate pan. I see he had an event recently at the Victoria Park, which was well attended. And I could only see it growing in the future. And I think those are the things you have to do. Also, drawing from experiences outside of St. Vincent. We can't just be myopic and just see what we do here and think that is the norm. We need to look in, peep in another bowl, see how they do it. How could we take that back and make it better? How could we change it up? How could we make it more unique for our culture? Those are the things we have to look at in terms of what I think we could do for pan. And I had mentioned with regards to Trinidad and their mass as well. Just like pan, in Trinidad, they had a show where they had DJs starting off the songs. And then they had 3 bands. And once the DJ started, then the band will continue to play. And I think I know one of the promoters who does that show. And it has been very successful in terms of drawing another crowd, encouraging young people to come back to pan. Also, if you look at the band, I think who won Band of the Year, I don't know if Karen might correct me, but Tribe, a very popular band, a party band, as you would say. They have a section called Lost Tribe, which is basically a segment of their whole band, because it's comprised of about 5. And Lost Tribe, sometimes they don't use feathers. They are more of a traditional band, but they do it in a modern style. I don't know if that makes sense. If you go and look up Lost Tribe and see how they rejuvenate, or what I could say, old mass, with what would have been the McFarlanes and Peter Minchel's of Trinidad, which would basically be aligned to our Blondie, our Digicel, our, the Dragon, all those old school bands. We can actually revamp, modernize, and make it fresh to encourage youth, because that's what happened to us when we were growing up. Mass was cool, pan was cool. How do we make it cool? How do we make it something that everybody wants to be a part of in this day and age? And that's what makes our festival unique. Yes, the parties, as Karen mentioned, we will be competing with the same parties. This brand may have a party in Jamaica, the same person have a party here. And yes, you're competing with that effect of persons wanting to come to a carnival to party. But I think marrying it with the culture and knowing how to get both to work in tandem is the winning aspect. Well, to me, it's the winning play in how we could get Vincy Mass on another level, because you see it with not Jamaica, with Grenada, with the jab. Every child, everyone grows up playing jab up to this day. So I think that's basically the winning formula, is how we go about doing it.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm hearing here the opportunities for innovation. And what we seem to have coming out is that there's some youngsters here who are very passionate about their particular area, their particular roles in Vincy Mart. And this is quite heartwarming to hear. I think the dialogue can go on, but what we are seeing is a team of persons, and I'm sure Suzette is recognizing that maybe what we have is a start here, an initiative that has been done by the SVG OA, and this this can probably be a new way forward if you want to put it that way. All right. So I'm gonna summarize this category because we have about three other categories to look at. There's a lot more persons who would obviously have their contributions to make. I don't know. We're gonna give each person a minute to summarize on what they see as their way forward for their particular area. So again, we're gonna start with Karen. What do you see as the way forward based on some of the narrative that you've heard from your particular area? How do you see us going forward in terms of mass? Your ideas?
Yeah, like I'm gonna agree with Kevin 100 when he said let's try to find a way to make it cool. Let's make it cool. Let's find a way for the traditional bands to get back on top where there's an interest for them. Maybe even I could find a way to incorporate some sort of traditional mass without taking away from them so that the art form itself doesn't die. I agree with Mervin when he said, let us teach. And Rodney said also, let's teach it in the schools. Let's put it on the curriculum or find a way to include it in the curriculum where the culture doesn't die. And I think pretty much everybody was on point with their discussion this afternoon with how we could make Vincy Mas, the next best thing. It's already the next best thing, but we need to, find a way to push it forward a little more.
Thank you very much, Karen. And I hope you have the time to stick around because there's a category called private events. We have that for later on. I don't know if you would have the time to, because we have that as the last item, but
I would try, but I do have another appointment at 8:00, but I'll try my best to.
All right. Well, once you keep in tune and you're here, you can always drop in and we'll have your perspectives on that as well. Thank you very much for being a part.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we'll move on and we'll get Rodney's perspective as to the way forward as he see it. Quick summary, Rodney.
And on the timetable, aligning ourselves with industry practices, seeing how we can be relevant and not only just see us as a group of delinquents, as people who just play in an oil drum. Again, aligning ourselves with what is happening in the entertainment industry, see ourselves as entertainers, and understand that the instrument is bigger than one particular season. Putting our house together, seeing ourselves as a product so that we can go and be a part of the conversations around the big tables where the big monies are passing so we can get a piece of it. But we also have to ensure that we are delivering a product so the business houses can see the importance of making us a part of their marketing budget or their overall budget on a whole. So most importantly, plan on the timetable and aligning ourselves with industry practice.
All right, thank you very much, Rodney. And again, also to you, if you have the time in terms of the private events and CDC shows, etc., the estimated time for that discussion would be probably about 9 thereabouts. So if you can return to give your perspectives again when we discuss private events and CDC shows, we'll be really happy to have your resource available. Thank you, man.
I'll try.
All right, great. Marvin, we're gonna get your perspective on the way forward. Summarize.
Well, my perspective, I think Karen and Rodney have said everything basically that I wanted to say in terms of getting collaboration, as she said, getting some traditional mass within the party bands. And as Rodney says, as I said before, get mass in the school, teach the children how to build in the school. I say school, but Rodney say on the timetable. Get it on the timetable. as part of let's say some schools of arts and craft, you know, get it as part of that. That's all I have to say. Because they already said basically what I was going to say.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, I know Rodney has that kind of insight, and he's also hearing um, what the discussion is like, and he's somebody who sits around the boardroom table, so he'll have to also carry this message. And we also be taking notes, making some point, and maybe submit a paper as to what came out of our discussion as well. All right. The final person on this panel in terms of the mass and pan is Dr. Brown. So Dr. Brown, we'd like to get your perspective on the way forward. Um, for
Yes.
pan. Yes.
Well, for me, I think with regards to the way forward, we just have to look at the different building blocks. One, I think, would be marketing. How do we market our festival? The second thing we can look at is how we gain capital to get all the bands off the ground. How can we make them more successful? How can we make them more profitable, as well as to continue to keep that culture alive? I think also an important thing that we need to address is, I put it as experience. As I say, we know how we do things here, but sometimes the world is a bigger place. Carnival is a bigger place. Rodney touched on it in terms of the industry. How do persons do it out there? What tips and tricks can we learn? Karen mentioned in terms of social media for marketing. What about a consultancy? For instance, our own body, CDC, they could hire somebody or get a consultant. How can we go about marketing? How can we go about making this better? Can we save and cut corners in terms of saving money to do certain shows, in terms of profit margins, and in terms of getting back something from the festival, especially for the bands or those that are now starting? How do we encourage them? How do we get them the funding to develop and make that product of what is our culture in terms of Vincy Mass, in terms of the pan, in terms of the calypso especially as well? I know we're not there as yet. And I also wanted to mention that what we have to realize too, and that's probably why you're saying us so passionate, is that for somebody to take up the mantle, to bring a band, or to be a part of Steel Pan, you have to take into consideration that they are doing it out of the love, because they have to be passionate about that. Because not every time you're going to have a successful year, not every time you're going to have something going your way, or you're going to have a lot of pitfalls, in terms of trying to get your band across, in terms of trying to get persons to participate. And a lot of people take those things for granted. And that's why I have to give kudos to especially a lot of the persons who you have selected, which you have done a very good job of, I must say, in terms of state on the day, but they don't understand the work put in behind the scenes to make it a reality. So I think those are the things I think that moving forward we need to look at.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Brown. We were also hoping that you'll be able to remain with us. I understand that you have a very unique private event that you're also working on. So maybe later on in the discussion, we could have your input once you're available with us.
Sure.
In the audience, and I almost did not necessarily embrace the fact that there could be questions. So I'm going to take a few minutes, just about 2 to 3 minutes, and if we could have anyone probably want to, pose a question to anyone on this first panel in any item, any perspective that they want clarity on. It's open. It's open for that discussion.
Okay, so Gary, yes, I do pick up a question from Facebook, and it is for Pan, and the person in that field may wish to answer if they're still okay. Where is Pan in church in terms of gospel music? No, nobody he's not from church, but I'm sure like to believe that go to church. Do we know if Pan, Rodney and Dr. Brong, do you know the sort of presence of pan playing gospel music at church?
Yeah, there are a bit of player steel band players in the church. There are one or two combo bands. In fact, we just had a general meeting where we're looking closely at our constitution, where we are actually supposed to be making the church members who are pan players associate members of the Yola Pan movement. So as I said earlier, the art form is a bit bigger than just the carnival event. So we have a full inclusion of different players. So we have soloists, we have duets, we have the steel orchestras, we have the tuners, we have the arrangers, and we have the churches who are a big part of our member body. So we haven't been fostering that relationship very well, or even centering a lot of our events around the gospel aspect of things. But it's something that we spoke about like last Thursday. So we're going to tap into it, but there are quite a number of players in the gospel industry. In fact, if we understand the history, Kevin spoke about Tambu Bamboo, but if we continue along the history, you would know that one of the first performances for Pan was done in church. One of the main songs was Ave Maria, when we move away from Pan Rung the next and we start putting the pans on stands. We had bands going into the church. So of course, we need to foster that relationship. We need to promote that aspect of the art form. And yes, there are some players within the churches.
Dr. Brown, in terms of the private event, which from your bio you do, how does PAN play that sort of roles in private event? I know that's another segment for private, but because we are the topic of PAN, there's another question that I pick up. How does PAN play the role in the private sector? And the other person is asking, in terms of the national anthem, sometimes are being sung by voice. Is there a way we can have instrumental of the national anthem being played on PAN?
So I think that there is PAN being played, especially for our national anthem. I'm not sure in terms of how often on the larger scale, but I know I have family members who play PAN and they usually play for different events, and most times with the national anthem. Even myself growing up, I used to play the national anthem for different little small soirees also that we would have been invited to. In terms of PAN being affiliated with private events, you're speaking of private events for Carnival or just in general? Because
the person did not specify, but if
right.
I can think, as we are saying here, punch or something should be 365 days.
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't want it stay just as Vincy Mas, but something I will inject to maybe to have it outside of.
I think especially, well, we see a lot of PAN, especially in the tourism industry. So a lot of artists, they go to the Grenadines or they may travel on the ships and the cruise ships as a result as well in terms of playing PAN. I guess that will entail private as well. The hotels especially have a need for PAN players because when someone travels, when someone comes into our island, they don't necessarily want to see what they coming from. They want to see what we have to offer in terms of our local cuisine, our local music, our local instrument, our local everything. That's what makes our island unique for us. So I think it's being done. Since I've been back, I've seen a lot of performances at different restaurants and different venues and events. That's why I specified for carnival events. For instance, for my event, I actually wanted PAN. I think I'd hit up Rodney as a matter of fact. But due to circumstances beyond his control, I didn't have it for my specific event. But I've heard of other promoters as well who wanted it for their events. And this is for carnival. But sometimes too, it's the added cost in terms of affording a whole band versus maybe a small pipe piece. So it depends on what, especially as a promoter, what your capital is like. And that would probably enable, because PAN wouldn't be the main thing in terms of what you want to start out with for your event, in terms of trying to draw the young people now, if you want to put it that way, or the cool crowd. But I guess it's how you market it and what your show is about. If it's a stage show or if it's a more senior crowd, they appreciate that culture a bit more. And as I said, it's to try and make it cool for the young people so that they now grow up loving it, and then it can be transferred in terms of the next generation. That's how you keep it growing. So I think that's how I see it in terms of the private events and the private places that Pan is played, basically.
I mean, if I could add quickly, because I know, Gary, you have a lot more to discuss. What we're seeing now is something that we've never seen before. And I've heard this from pioneers, icons, person who have been in it before me, before Kevin, where every single event that you could possibly think about, there's some element of the steel band. I mean, we can go from cocktails, weddings, reception, government events, private events. There's some element of it. Now, I don't want persons when they hear pan, they only think about the orchestra, right? Because there are different elements and there are different aspects of the steel band. But as it is now, for the past 5 years or probably past 8 years, pan has always been a part of any particular program that you could possibly think about. I mean, I know I would big up Kevin because of his roots. You know, he tried to incorporate the pan into his event. But I am still put out a challenge there for any promoter who will take the brave move to actually put the steel pan as a feature in your event, because the European movement, we had an event called Ivory Soiree, the same all white, the same alcohol, the same VIP, the same bottle service, and it was filled. Persons flocked Victoria Park. So it is not a situation where there's no entertainment value, there's no value in it. It's just how you sell it, and it's just giving me an experience like, yeah, yo, really? I mean, so yeah, there are a number of things that the steel band has been a part of lately.
Yes, and I would also like to mention, I think Rodney had touched on it before. The first time I played pan wasn't even for a panorama. It was actually for the Easter Pan Festival. I think that was in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was also the music festival. I think that year Rhythmics had won most outstanding performance doing a classical by Beethoven. So I agree with him in terms of the fact that pan is not just for carnival, but you also have it for classical concerts. You have other pieces and other arrangements that can be played. That's why I actually love the question with regards to the use of pan in gospel. Because recently, I think last month in church, we actually had the Bishop's College Kingston Steel Orchestra actually performing in our church. So it is active. It's I'm happy to say that I have seen the continuation of the art form, and not only during Carnival, but outside of Carnival.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Yes, so that brings us to the summary of the first category that we have for discussion this evening, and it was really, I think it was really well done. Kudos to you guys for handling this segment so well. Next segment is Calypso, and we know that Calypso and Carnival, there seems to be such an amazing relationship with once you talk about Carnival and Calypso. I think before that, should we run some ads and get the persons prepared for Calypso? So with us in the audience, we should have in this category, all Cabo Bennett, Carlos Rejector Providence, Carlos Walcott, and Jim Lewis. So you guys can get ready, and I'll give you just a little perspective as we did in the fourth segment. You know, you give her a minute, talk about what it means to you in terms of Calypso and Vincy Mas, and then we'll move on to the two other aspects. So when we return, we're gonna have our dialogue on Calypso, so we can have some ads. See you in a bit.
The SVG Association of Ottawa, in collaboration with Team Hill News Network, the Ultimate 5 Band, invite you to a Community Pulse Forum. Topic, the transitioning of Vincy Mars, a dialogue on the challenges, opportunities, way forward, plus a question and answer period. Sunday, 27th August, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a very talented panel. Host Gary Peters of the Ultimate 5 Band. Live streaming on the Hill News Network, Kankadi Radio, Success Radio, Fun City Radio, YouTube, the Hill News Network. Join the panel via Zoom at SVG Ottawa Association at gmail.com. It is this Sunday, August 27th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's have a community chat on Vincy Mars.
We highlight the rich diversity of Canada and the Caribbean culturally in radio. That's why we are Kankadi Radio. Stay with us.
I've got time if you've got time. Success Radio.
New York Massive. Come and join the Dynamite's Calypso tent as they present their Labor Day Backyard Jam on Friday, September 1st.
We drinking?
It's all happening at 42 Malta Street, Brooklyn, between New Locks and Hegman. The jamming starts at 9 p.m. with The Man Age, Dennis Bowman, Jose Juan, Delahante Isles, Oscar James, Persano, Jakey, Bob MC, Hamlet, and Rejector, with special guest appearances by Lively, The Scorcher, and from Grenada, Hercules. Come and enjoy local Vincy foods and a well-stocked bar. Admission to this is absolutely free. So come join the Dynamite's Calypso tent as they present their Labor Day Backyard Jam on Friday, September 1st.
And the music in the band is nicely played. We drinking?
The SVG Association of Ottawa, in collaboration with Team The Hill News Network, the Ultimate 5 Band, invite you to a Community Pulse Forum. Topic, the transitioning of Vincy Mars, a dialogue on the challenges, opportunities, way forward, plus a question and answer period. Sunday, 27th August, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a very talented panel. Host Gary Peters of the Ultimate 5 Band. Live streaming on the Hill News Network, Kankadi Radio, Success Radio, Fun City Radio, YouTube, the Hill News Network. Join the panel via Zoom at SVG Ottawa Association at gmail.com. It is this Sunday, August 27th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's have a community chat on Vincy Mars.
All right, well, welcome back. So we are ready to discuss our new segment, Calypso. And I'm going to invite